Hey, everybody, welcome to the Howie and Beastmode podcast, business growth, strategy, and execution. We're so glad to have you here. Beastmode, it's great to see you.
Ryan, it's such a wonderful morning. Thank you for having me on today.
Awesome. Well, what are you seeing out there? I mean, it's kind of unprecedented times in terms of the business, the business climate. What are you seeing?
Yeah, there's a lot of negativity out there in response to COVID-19. Unfortunately, many businesses, number one, feel the need to respond in an area that maybe I don't necessarily think they need to respond in. And then at the same time, they're responding in a way that's so detrimental to their business, their brand, their industry, just under the guise of everybody else is responding and addressing the situation, so I'm going to address the situation. I feel for that, and I'd love to just take some time and just discuss maybe better avenues on how to do that, or really just a different perspective shift on how to customers in general, when we're going through a crisis, whether it's personal or national or global, we really don't want to be reminded about it. We want to be drawn out of it. And so we're seeking every time we go to a business, we order food or we go in and we're shopping somewhere, we're seeking an experience to get away. And we don't necessarily need to be reminded of it every time we go somewhere.
Yeah, that's good. So people are using, basically because of fear, people are kind of forgetting the customer experience.
Yeah, well, definitely the customer experience on the firsthand interactions, but also even in their postings or their addressings on social media. I've seen a lot of things of businesses proclaiming, this is what we're doing to stay safe as a business. And while, I applaud that, and that you are doing something to stay safe as a business, that doesn't address my concerns as a consumer or a customer or a client. I want to know what you're doing for me. What are you doing to bring security to me, to bring peace of mind to me? Not to whenever until I come in, do I feel separated? Do I feel isolated? Do I feel unwelcomed? Quite frankly, is a lot of the way that a lot of this comes across. And so it's very difficult. And I know it's hard. We all want to do something, and we all want to have a voice or to address it, but a lot of times it just comes across as missing the mark.
Mm-hmm.
So,
no, that's very interesting. Any specific examples that you've run into lately?
yeah, I ran into one last night. I saw a post of a grocery store up in the Northeast, and they chose to, on each one of their checkout aisles, which they didn't, from the looks of it, again, I didn't do a ton of research on it, but from the looks of the pictures that I saw, they didn't have a ton of self checkout. They were all basically manual checkout with a cashier, but they chose to, as their mode of protection for the consumer, the customer, and for themselves, was to put a large plexiglass barrier in between the cashier and the consumer. And so basically, from the portion of where you would put your groceries on the sliding table towards all the way to the end where you would pay, was just large piece of plexiglass. And so basically, to have any interactions, you had to go all the way down to the end. You had to lay your money down. You had to step away, and you're creating an unwelcoming environment in the guise of, number one, fear, and then number two, trying to be proactive. Well, in the proactiveness, if you go through and even just, these aren't even my words, these are consumers and customers' words who are attending these establishments. They're feeling unwelcome. They're actually feeling not safe. They're actually feeling unsafe because of all this. Now you're heightening and you're bringing something to light that maybe is not relevant, that or is unnecessary. And so they took a proactive measure, but their proactive measure was actually met in such a negative way. And I actually fear that have concerns for the business that it's actually pushing many, many, many customers away towards someplace else.
Yeah. It's a tough one. It doesn't really trigger me personally in that way. But I think what they could have done is they could have, you know, maybe brought some sample customers, in, or friends and family or something. I don't know. And just gotten some opinions on design, or opinions on, doing it or not doing it, or alternatives, and kind of bring their customer community somehow into an ideas and brainstorming time, because maybe it seems to and maybe I haven't seen the design, but it seems to be triggering to a lot of people. So, and yeah, I'm sympathetic to the underlying issue. Of course, we all are. But maybe there was an opportunity to get the community involved and just
Yeah,
say, what should we do? What would be safe?
yeah, it seems like on my perspective, it was singular focus. They were seeking an avenue to protect themselves, which they
Mm,
should. Every business in this time, no matter what your business is, should be taking precautionary measures, just like everybody should. But when you're doing a measure, or you're acting um, solely on behalf of the business, it's never going to work out well. You got to be thinking of the end user, your client, your consumer, not just the way that looks and it feels, because it is a shock. If I went to my local grocery store, and then, on Monday, and then I went in there today, and all of a sudden there's bulletproof glass in between me and everybody else, it would be awakening. It would be a shock. And maybe, it would jolt me into putting my stuff down and leaving, and that's just me personally. Especially, what if I had my son with me? What if then it just travels down that path of, do I feel safe? I thought I was safe, but now I don't. I thought I was coming in here to escape and get some necessities, and now it's, is it worth it anymore? Those are the thoughts that start jumping in my mind whenever, as a business, the time is already, for some, it can be similar to a famine. It's the business that once was coming in is no longer coming in. And I don't need to be putting up more of a barrier, literally, and, just out there in thought process, but I need to be inviting. It doesn't mean that I don't need to take precautions. I'm not saying that at all. There's plenty of grocery stores, for example, here locally, that I know that are meeting you at the door and just giving you a squirt of hand sanitizer. They're meeting you and offering you gloves to put on. I've even seen a couple that they're offering you masks. I've seen some that they're
Hmm.
standing there, and as you walk in, they're spraying everything down. They're being proactive in a way, showing that, I know that there's a risk out there for everybody, but instead of putting it on me where I'm protecting myself, I want to protect you.
Mhm.
And so I just think there's better ways to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it comes back to a topic that we talk about a lot, which is, or at least my first point came down to something we talk about a lot, which is feedback.
Yeah.
Bringing the customer into the idea phase is a really big idea. I know Amazon's super big on feedback, and super big on, most of their products, maybe all their products. There's a way to give feedback. So I think, that's one good way of bringing the customer into that process and using empathy. I was thinking last night a lot about, corporate messaging, versus sales messaging, versus what the customer needs. And, when it comes down to, corporate messaging, we have certain things that we know about our product, and about the industry, and about what we're geared to do. When it comes to, sales messaging, we're trying to, teach the customer and show them what they need. And then, the customer has a certain amount of messaging that they need. So I think, in this case, the corporate message was protection, and very rigid, quite literally actually, but very, rigid protections and barriers. The sales message, I think, was lost. I mean, clearly from the feedback online that you saw.
Yeah.
And as far as the customer's buying message, it was, the customer wasn't part of that message at all. It didn't involve the customer,
No.
whatsoever. So yeah, I think you're on to something there, even though it doesn't trigger me, because I just have to be honest. I'm sympathetic to the customer, and I can see why certain personalities would just be like, hey, that's, you want me to come in and spend $200 on groceries, which I have for the last 15 years. And yet, this is the wrong message. For me, this is the wrong message. So I am sympathetic to that. So I think you have to think about your messaging and your approach, and get the customer involved in that to make sure it's there's empathy. Any other examples that you've seen? I mean, we don't have to talk just about the zeros. We can talk about heroes too. Have you seen any
Yeah.
heroes as well during this time? Something that really blesses you?
Yeah, it's really cool to see many of the businesses that are, not necessarily in a medicinal industry to shift, whether it's their
Oh yeah,
manufacturing or their producing over to a medicinal product.
yeah,
Again, and they're doing it, and I understand why they're doing it from a marketing standpoint. They are receiving some benefit from it, but again, it's not something that they have to do. And from everything that I've read, a lot of it is purely a donation. They're not seeking. The example I saw, I don't mind, I guess, dropping this one, is that I saw Nike and Gap are shifting one of their factories to making respirator masks. And now again, their masks have a Nike logo on it and have a Gap
hey,
logo on it.
that's smart though. Yeah,
Yeah, um, and so again, part of me does wish that it didn't come out the way that it did. I wish it came out from the hospital saying a thank you, as opposed to coming out as an advertisement. But at the end of the day, it's being able to switch on a dime, saying here's a key initiative, here's a way to capitalize and do something positive, and there's really just only positive messages across that. So
yeah, that's cool. I appreciate you sharing that with us. I hadn't heard that one. I was super proud of Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks and entrepreneur and Shark Tank uh, leader and veteran. Continuing to pay, employees. I was not thrilled that Marriott's first move was to furlough or fire, like 2/3 of their workforce.
yeah,
There's a lot of zeros and heroes that you're seeing, and I'm sympathetic in a way because you could bankrupt Marriott if you don't do something about cost pretty quick, because travel has shut down. So, I'm sympathetic, but that was it. To me, it was a very quick reaction. It was like, hey, the first thing we could do is just furlough or fire everybody.
yeah,
And I don't have all the facts, so I don't want to say it was all furlough or all fire.
yeah,
But it felt real sudden and real jerky to me. I did hear a rumor. I don't know if you heard this rumor too, that Harvard apparently let their dining staff go,
I haven't
and
heard that.
they've got like what, $100 billion or some crazy endowment, like a giant
Yeah,
bucket of cash they're sitting on, but they can't pay $9 an hour to their dining staff who are currently you know not able to serve students.
yeah,
That seems super not liberal to me. I mean, if it's a very liberal university, that doesn't seem very liberal. So I don't want to act all sweet right now. That
yeah,
just pissed me off. That didn't hurt
yeah,
me. That pissed me off. That seemed hypocritical. That's not a very doesn't reflect the values that we often see from Harvard, or from higher ed in general. So yeah, that was kind of a zero example. Mark Cuban was a hero. I mean, I think some other heroes I would be, happy to talk about are, I feel like all of the fast food, and I don't know about all the restaurants, but of the fast food folks have done a nice job pivoting to just drive through. I think they've done a
yeah,
great job. I had an experience. I haven't done a lot of these, I'll confess. Um, Popeyes seemed to have their act together. We went there last night, and then several days ago we went to Chick-fil-A. They had their act together.
yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of cool. Any other pivots that you've seen or anything interesting? I mean, it could be negative or positive.
Yeah. Um, it's really easy to focus on the negatives, and I'll try not to. But again, to piggyback off of what a lot of the fast foods Now, a lot of them, they're doing it out of necessity, but they are shifting their focus and doing to-go only and doing free delivery. Now, I wish they would market the free delivery differently. I just wish they would, instead of just saying, you know, you know, you've earned it. Here's free delivery, or deliveries on us. But they're marketing in such a way, and I'm trying to think of an example or find one as we're talking, to where the wording of why they're doing it comes across negatively. But again, it's such a great way to be able to offer free delivery, to be able to do things over in abundance, to be able to shift that way, to continue to employ staff. I know that. I actually got another one. The YMCA, huge hit. They're having to shut down all their, no classes, no members, no sporting activities, no childcare. But what they did, they almost shifted immediately. At least I know in Dallas, is they shifted all their YMCA's to provide childcare for first responders, and so that they are open, but they're only open to receive children from first responders. And so that's a huge thing. And again, it's 100% free,
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so I know all the local facilities are active in doing that. And I know a lot of local businesses, especially that are local to that area, maybe they're franchisees or just small business owners, are incorporating it in donating some food, or getting their name out there, again, as an advertisement on their own behalf, going into the hospitals, and getting some food out there to these staff members who are obviously working over in abundance for what they're doing. And so, those are some really great avenues where you see really people who are helping people, helping businesses around each other,
Now, what have you seen? Actually, I'm going to give you one thing that would be another hero. I think at least the Senate, I heard last night, the Senate was actually unanimous and bipartisan in passing that bill, which will go to the House now. I think the House is being a little bit more partisan about the big bill, and maybe it's actually been fully passed this morning. I don't know. I haven't looked yet. But anyway, I was another hero, I think, is both parties in the Senate who worked together on the relief bill. I was really proud of that. It touches my heart, actually, to be honest, because I have been very, upset certain days on seeing the partisanship in America, and just the selfishness, and I think possibly narcissism sometimes, like clinical, real narcissism, in our country's leaders. So I've been thrilled with them working together during this time. That would be a hero for me recently. Now, what can we do locally? We have jobs and we have families, so we have responsibilities too, but are there some things that we can do, ourselves to be heroes at this time?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the biggest thing is to shift our focus, which it already should be, but it should be shifted even more towards the customers, clients, consumers' needs. Whatever business you're in, doesn't matter if you're in a restaurant or you're business to business or business to C, it doesn't matter. Shifting and considering the other people, what avenues, what hurdles are they going through that are different to get to your product, to get to your service that maybe aren't normally there. And one of the things that I continue to see is people reminding other businesses, or they're reminding their consumers, clients, or whatever, that they're open. That's a great way to gain an establishment.
Actually,
to say, hey, we're open, but then is not to follow it up by saying, we need your business, we're desperate for you. No, that's not it, because then now I just shifted the focus back to me. I'm the most important thing. Instead, saying, yes, we're open. We know that you need this. We know that this is going on. We're with you in your problem. We're, together, and we're here. We're open because of you. that's a totally different message. It's a totally different way you receive it as a consumer versus somebody saying, you know, we're open, we're desperately need you 50% off of everything. That's totally different. That's just, and so it's a simple shift, and it's something that we can all do. Very
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah. And I think there's, if you go to the pain, if you're listening as a supplier and as a vendor and as a business right now, you know, I think if you can embrace the pain that you see and see if you can flip it into a business opportunity, then you're just going to help with the pain and with yourself.
Yeah. And Brian, Howie, that was so great. The thoughts that, again, whenever we're able to just shift our focus and we're able to put our clients, our consumers, our customers first, then what we're able to do is we're able to acknowledge and get in their shoes of any hurdles or any bumps in the road that they may see coming to to us to be able to receive from us. And so it's just a simple mind shift, and it's a simple way. We want to thank you guys again for listening. You guys can subscribe on YouTube. You guys can also subscribe on iTunes and Spotify. And also you can follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. Look forward to seeing you.